This is going to be a video on how selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors affect the central nervous system. So SSRIs are most popularly known for their use as antidepressants in the treatment of major depressive disorder. But there are many other ways you can use this drug. The overall goal, though, is to increase the availability of serotonin in the synapses. Other medical treatments include monoamine oxidase inhibitors, tricyclics, but of course, there are always a variety of treatments available, like therapies. It should be noted, however, that different versions of SSRIs will create slightly different results. In our understanding of major depressive disorder, it is absolutely crucial that we also understand the serotonin hypothesis. Simply put, low levels of serotonin are what cause depressive symptoms. For this reason, the number of serotonin receptors and the rate of attachment to these receptors is equally as important. And what's interesting is that low levels of both of these things seem to be most prominent in the limbic system, which is associated with emotional and behavioral responses. And these are also regions that are reported to be relevant in major depressive disorder. So here I have a drawing of a chemical synapse I made. What I don't show is that further up the neuron, serotonin is actually synthesized here. When that happens, it's collected into these synaptic vesicles and they travel further down the axon terminal. So when the action potential hits the presynaptic terminal, it activates positively charged calcium ions to enter the cell. What this does is that it forces all of the synaptic vesicles to be pushed down towards the axon terminal and forces serotonin to be released into the synaptic cleft. Serotonin can then attach to the ligand-gated ion receptors on the postsynaptic neuron. Ions can now travel through down to the next neuron. At some point in this process, serotonin pops back out of the receptors. In the cleft, they can either be taken away by glial cells, or through the act of reuptake, brought back into the presynaptic neuron. Serotonin will either be recycled or broken down by an enzyme, in this case, monoamine oxidase. Okay, now let's take a look at how this can occur in depressed individuals. So the impairment can happen in two ways. For one, there may just be low amounts of serotonin according to the serotonin hypothesis. A second way this can occur is through low receptor attachment. In either case, there's a decrease in ligand gate channels opening, and that way, there aren't as many ions able to be sent through to the next neuron further down. Compare the current diagrams to the one before normal functioning. In the last diagram, all of the receptors had neurotransmitters attached to them. In the current ones, very few are attached. This doesn't mean that no ions are able to pass through. It just means that there's a decreased amount. Let's think about this logically. If there's less serotonin available, it also means that there's a decreased likelihood that a serotonin molecule will attach to a receptor down below. This means there's also a decreased likelihood that these ligand gates will actually open up to the ions and pass on the information to the next neuron. Now let's look at SSRIs. They're selective precisely because they only affect reuptake transporters, and they inhibit that reuptake. This inhibits it through blocking those reuptake transporters. For depressed individuals, this means increasing the amount of serotonin left in the synaptic cleft. This floating around more serotonin in the synaptic cleft essentially forces an increased rate of attachment to serotonin receptors. This decreases depressive emotional states and allows the neurological message to be passed further downstream. This has been associated with small positive shifts in automatic emotional responses. Hopefully now you understand why this is such a crucial system for normal functioning. Which brings me to the point of my criticism towards the scientific community. It's pretty well known now that SSRIs are widely overprescribed. Now also consider the withdrawal symptoms of stopping SSRI use. Even slow, gradual tapering off of the medication results in withdrawal symptoms. This class of medications has serious repercussions on the human body and shouldn't be given out so lightly. Moreover, we barely know how these work. Through observation, we know that taking these meds has a certain effect, but we still don't know exactly why that occurs. To reiterate, with such serious repercussions, more thought needs to be put into the prescription of this medication. Thanks for watching, and I'll also be leaving my APA references down in the description box below.